I'm going to be reviewing this book, Backyard Garden Witchery, and then the Comeback Trail.
And what other things?
Backlight, Treadstone, and VFW. And that's James's
Wow, look at that.
Dinner for today. And
that's like a...
I'm not having a very healthy meal, but I'm having hot lemon and honey, so that's something.
And maybe we'll have enough time to deal with...
So I'm going to get talking about this before
classics of philosophy
and get it hot.
Historical introduction to philosophy.
So this book, it's funny because when I was looking at the whiteflies on my plants, the geraniums, beside where I was planting my tomato seeds, like a while ago. It was, I think, the full moon in March. So anyway, when I was doing that, I said to myself, what am I going to do to get rid of these whiteflies? And then I sat down and I flipped through the book and I opened it coincidentally to a page where she's talking about controlling insect pests on your plants with a soap solution, soap and water. And I'd remembered, giving up on the soap and water when Sunlight changed their formula, and so I just gave up on trying different kinds of soap. I didn't want to buy safer soap, and so I just decided, well, I'm not going to bring plants in from outside in the fall. But then the last, 10 years or something, we've been bringing plants in. And this year, bad case of whiteflies, so I had to do something. And bad case of spider mites on another plant in another room. Anyway, so I did the soap trials, and I went through different types and showed you which ones worked better or whatever. And I found one now that works really well, and it doesn't burn my leaves at all, and it's great. So although I didn't enjoy it as a shampoo, it might be worth buying as insect control, because boy did it ever work. So now reading this book, I just opened it to the page I wanted, again coincidentally, Fertilizers Demystified. And it's funny to hear somebody who's writing about being a witch or whatever, and writing about fertilizer, because you don't think of fertilizer as being really down to earth or whatever. But there's a lot of things in here that, she has spells that they sound like interesting spells. I don't know, like love spell oil. Lavender, cinnamon, cloves, and nutmeg. I bet that smells great. I bet I'd feel more in love if I had that smell on me. And she has recipes in here. I just opened to asparagus tart. Sounds good. When you do anything with puff pastry, it's going to be good, right? So there's a lot of different things. There's spells in here. There's different things about various plants. And I love this section. It's the magical plants for a witch's garden. And she goes through all sorts of things that are common and things that are maybe not so common. So there's evening primrose here is pretty common. Attraction, hunting, rituals, and protection. And she gives the hardiness zones and all sorts of information about these things too. It's not just magic information, it's growing information, gardening information. And let's see, where's another one? There's onion. Onion, banishing, healing, lust, money, oats, prophetic dreams, and protection. And to my surprise, shallot has a different set of things: health, protection, purification. Leek is a little bit different too: exorcism, health, love, and protection. So there's protection in all that, and the green onion too, but there's a little bit different, Green onion's clear thinking and healing as well. And garlic is evil eye protection, fertility, health, protection, purification, strength, and warding. So these things that you think of as being quite similar, they have a little bit different magical properties. If you believe in that stuff. Carrots. beauty, clear sight, fertility, protection, strength, and youth. I think the fertility, that's pretty obvious, isn't it? So, but yeah, there's a lot of things in here that you might not know about, and you might be interested in finding out about. So, I think this is a pretty good book. I enjoyed flipping through it, and I think a lot of people would. So, on with the movies. The Comeback Trail. I have talked about how I don't like Morgan Freeman as an actor. I think he's terrible, but and I don't like Robert De Niro. James loves Robert De Niro. I do not. Tommy Lee Jones, I think we both like him.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, he's pretty good.
I'm increasingly less impressed with Robert De Niro.
Okay.
He basically plays Robert De Niro.
He does, and he does that stage acting like over the face. I can't stand that. I can't stand it.
He does the frown too much.
Too much.
This is him, right?
Yeah.
So
But he'll do it even more to show he's really unhappy or whatever. But it's like,
so
it's dreadful. But anyway, I love this movie.
I'm just going to say, I picked him out here. He's not under his own name. But I'm going,
No,
who has the frown?
I can't stand it when they do that. They should always have the people directly under their names. Sometimes they don't when they're making a movie box. I don't like it when they don't do that. They need to have them right under the names, and James obviously thinks so too, because he noticed it.
Anyway, I could pick him off by the frown.
Yeah. So, I'm glad it's not just me. But, anyway, this movie, I laughed. I laughed quite a few times.
That's the one you were laughing about.
Yes, so definitely worth watching. It's a
Laugh
good
out
one.
loud.
Yeah.
Yeah, LOL.
Black Light, Liam Neeson. You know I love Liam Neeson. I love seeing him giving it to the bad guys, you know? And in this movie, it's not vigilanteism, which I like more. So, well, for the most part. He's working for the FBI. So, but it says he's an off-the-books fixer for the FBI. So, anyway, sort of like vigilanteism. But, and it becomes increasingly more so after the movie. But in any case, in this movie, he's playing somebody with OCD. And I have said before, and I will say again, I don't believe that what is considered obsessive-compulsive disorder is actually disorder at all. I don't believe it is one. I believe it's a strength. I believe you're like Superman if you have it. And sometimes it can get out of control when it becomes so that you can't function and it's really taking over your life. Well, something needs to happen. But the fact that you pay attention to detail, the fact that you might want to put like items with like items and make sure you double check things, that's awesome. And it bothers me that people seem to think it's people are sick if they're perfectionist or whatever. No, you're awesome. That's all. And this movie, pretty good. Didn't get top of the stack, even though I love Liam Neeson. Treadstone season 1. It's a Bourne sort of thing. So if you like the, what is it, Jason Bourne, what do you call that? I don't know. Well, anyway, yeah. If you like that stuff, then you'll like this. And
otherwise,
I pretty much guarantee it. And if you don't like that stuff, then you won't like this either. But I think I like this more than the movies.
Isn't that a movie? Oh, it's a TV.
It's a TV series.
Gotcha.
VFW. This has nobody in it that I recognized except for Norm from Cheers.
Oh
and
my God.
When I was watching this movie, I was like, geez, this seems like an 80s movie, so it's fitting that Norm is in there. And I couldn't really tell if maybe they'd made it in the 80s, and because Norm pretty much looks the same. You know, they could have made his hair look grayer, but he's still a big guy. That looks like
That's
Norm.
a kind word, yeah.
So, anyway, it's about a veterans kind of bar and a bunch of old guys. It's like a
Legion?
yeah, but it's a future that you don't want to be in, where people are basically they've turned themselves into zombies with some new drug, but not everyone has. The veterans are I mean, they're drinking alcohol, a lot of alcohol, but they're not partaking in that street drug that really turns people into zombies. And so basically this is a zombie movie, and it seems like an 80s zombie movie, but there is way more graphic violence than you would have seen in an 80s zombie movie. Having said that, it did not bother me. It was fine.
Did the movie bump it?
Nope, movie didn't bother me.
Okay.
I didn't like the ending. I won't give it away, but I did not care for it. I will say that this was put out in 2019, not in the 80s, and so it makes one think about...
Norm must have been a teenager back then when he was in Cheers. He's still...
Well, I don't know. He's a lot older than me.
I know. What's that?
Anyway, he's doing okay. And he never was really an actor, so he isn't really in this either, but he's always Norm if you like him. And honestly, in a movie that seems like an 80s movie, that's awesome that they got him in it, because Cheers was so huge back then. And yeah, if you like zombie movies, I think you'll like this. It was pretty decent. So honestly, out of my bottom of the stack, top of the stack, all of them were worth watching as far as I'm concerned today. So now you can go ahead and talk about your stuff if you want.
All right.
I'm going to put this in the porch because I don't want it to get wrecked.
This is not a spoiler alert. It's a philosopher's warning, okay? Philosophy warning.
Oh dear. Boy,
Watch
I'm
out.
trying to spill my hot lemon and honey.
I'm going to be dealing with philosophy the next little while. This is just an introduction. I'm not going to be doing it today. It's just a warning. Okay? So, a historical introduction to the philosophy of mind and classical philosophy, volume 2, modern and contemporary. Should introduce this one first, because this one's a special classical philosophy. Now, I finished these up quite a while back. I've been sparing you folks. This one I finished a little after the 24th of June 2022. I didn't know when I finished it up, I don't think. No, I didn't. I had a question mark for the month and date. But I have a note here. Optical Studios, 24th of whenever, 12:40 Wednesday, across from Cornerstone. And that's when I went to I guess it's be an ophthalmologist, and that's where I found out that my diagnosis of me having a stroke that took away part of my field of vision was correct, and I did it in 5 minutes, 5 seconds, and I'm not exaggerating, 5 seconds. And I went to Emerge down in here in Lethbridge, and they couldn't pick it up. So they sent me on my not so merry way. So I put that in there because I would have been reading it, and so sometime after that I finished it up. So yeah, say it's 2022. It was 2020. So I put that in there. And this one I've been sparing you folks. You enlightened and benighted folk. Not all of you. Most. Oh yeah, I finished this one first. I must have been reading a lot of philosophy. Finished the 1st of April, 2020. That's what my note says underneath it. And that's no fooling. 1st of April, 2020. I actually finished it up. And, oh yeah, I checkmarked every page. Maybe I just went through them. Boop, 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 boop. That's not the way I do things. You can think that. I don't really care. What you think. Now then, we'll finish up what we were doing the other day. Hockey. Poor Pauline. Hopefully it doesn't put her off. Or I guess it would be like high tea or almost like something
I
like
don't
that.
know.
Well, you didn't have tea, but
Hi, pie.
so we were talking about how overrated. Never mind what Don Cherry says. Big Bobby Orr is, still is. And by comparison with a couple other folks, Bobby Hull and Wayne Gretzky. And I'll review these books after having reviewed these guys' careers. So, the Golden Jet, a spectacular career, not quite a career, in stunning photographs. You'll go through here. There are all sorts of photos of Bobby Hull after he's retired. You see how many after he's retired. Boop, 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 boop. Boop, 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 yeah. So here we go. That many photos and a little bit of commentary too on his career after he retired, which doesn't qualify as a career for me. And then these photos are, let me see how much of him as a child. Boop, boop, boop. Some good photos of Bobby Hull when he was a child and growing up. And then up until, oh, here he is. This is a fantastic photograph of Bobby Hull looking almost like a movie star before hockey ruined his good looks. He also lost a substantial portion of his hair until he resorted to a variety of different, I don't know, wigs and whatever. But so there's this much on not just his career, but on his early years up until I think he started playing NHL hockey when he was 18. And all of this is Chicago Blackhawks. But you see, in 1972 or thereabouts, until about maybe 1980, well, that's 8 years of his career. So when did he start? Sometime around 1958. So 14 years he played in the NHL. What happened to him in 1972? You're not going to find out in here, at least in terms of pictures. Why? Because this must have been put out with the approval, at the very least, of the Chicago, oh yeah, copyright by Chicago Blackhawk Hockey Team, 2010. Now you can't do this, Chicago Blackhawk Hockey Team, and call it career, a spectacular career in stunning color. It might be his career with the Chicago Blackhawks. But for about 8 years, he was with the Winnipeg Jets, and I guess they were still annoyed that he jumped ship from the Chicago Blackhawks and signed for, it said, for $1 million, or it was said back then, for $1 million with the Winnipeg Jets of a rival league, the WHA. So they should have had a full complement of pictures from wherever. The Chicago Blackhawks, the Winnipeg Jets are now in something with the same name. It'd be a different league, but are now in the NHL and all that sort of stuff. But some very, very good and revealing photos of Bobby Hull. There he is wearing his dad's gloves, looking like a little choir boy, and maybe younger than a choir boy. It really shows how vicious NHL hockey is. And nowadays, guys, I don't know if some will, with visors, it's harder to get at a person's nose and face and stuff like that. But you can just see, here he is when he's a young pup. Again, he looks like a choir boy. And I'm telling you, it's lucky he didn't inherit his dad's looks. His dad looked like Bobby Hull's younger brother, Dennis Hull, a big beak on him and stuff like that. I guess he's not giving his dad the English symbol, V, backward V symbol for victory, telling his dad to F off or something like that. I think he must have scored 2 goals. Here he is playing baseball. He's probably a pretty good athlete. He says that he could have played for Colorado State. This is a football picture. Let's see if we can find a few of the highlights. I'll talk about some of the lowlights of his career. Here he is when he's a young pup, even before he made it to the Chicago Blackhawks. He played with a little individual called Stan Mikita. And the weird thing is, it says here that Stan and I are celebrating something. He was number 9 and I was number 8. So Bobby Hull eventually ended up with the number 9. Also, he was my right wing. I was a center. That's Bobby Hull writing the commentary. They hadn't figured out yet that Stan was too smart to be a right wing, and I was too dumb to be a center. So Bobby Hull ended up being offensively maybe the best left winger to ever play in the NHL, and Stan Mikita is one of the better centers. But they had him playing in the wrong position. If I'd been coaching Bobby Hull, I don't think anyone's that dumb. I would have tried to make him a center and tried to teach him how to pass. He said he learned about the value of the passing game when he made it in the WHA and was playing with a couple of Swedish players, very talented. Anders Hedberg, I forget what the name of the other guy is offhand. Here's Jean Beliveau looking uncharacteristic, trying to check the 18-year-old Bobby Hull, and well, that's kind of illegal what Jean Beliveau's doing, but Jean probably realized that Bobby was a little bit better than him. Jean Beliveau only won 1 scoring championship in all his career. Bobby Hull won at least 2. I don't know if he won 3. And of course, he was a better goal scorer than Jean Beliveau was. Jean Beliveau, again, carried the puck a bit too much, but he was a very good player. And he won 10 Stanley Cups. Bobby Hull only won 1. Here, this is a wonderful picture. Bobby Hull looking handsome. Stan Mikita looking like a overgrown kid. And Eric Nestorenko with a mouse under his eye. Eric Nestorenko was the kind of guy who'd go and start fights and get beaten up, and everyone, you see, he's a big guy, and he'd go pick on people and so on and so forth, and just a bad idea all around. So,
he just liked getting beat up.
I don't know what the scene. I think when he came in, people thought he was going to be, like a really good player, maybe like Gordie Howe. So Gordie Howe is the kind of guy, we don't have a summary of him, so I can talk about him, but maybe I will. By comparison, Bobby Orr was overall, I think, slightly better than Bobby Hull. He won 2 Stanley Cups. Bobby Hull won 1. Now, Lord only knows what would happen with Bobby Hull if he'd stayed in the NHL. I think if he'd stayed, he might have won the Stanley Cup 72-73. The Chicago Blackhawks without him made it to the Stanley Cup Finals. Maybe they did better without him. Yeah, possible. But in 70, 71. No, 71. 71. The Chicago Blackhawks with him. They made it to the Stanley Cup Finals. It was a 7-game series. The last game, the Chicago Blackhawks went up 1 goal, and and then it was 2-1 or 2. I think they might have gone up 2 goals in that 7th game, but they came back. Canadians did and won 3-2. So I think they might have won. It was a fairly close series, 6-game series in 72-73. with the Montreal Canadiens, the Chicago Blackhawks versus. But I'm going to mention Gordie Howe. You know, maybe they thought Eric Nesterenko was going to be like Gordie Howe. So Gordie Howe, again, an underachiever. This is news probably to most people. When Gordie Howe, I think they hold the record, when Gordie Howe was with the Detroit Red Wings, and that was for all of his early career, going back to maybe 1948, 49, somewhere around there, all the way until he retired, and then he went into the WHA sometime in the 70s, relatively early 70s. He was in the NHL a long time. Very successful. People were afraid, of course, of taking him on. But, you know, like the Detroit Red Wings, under his leadership, or misleadership, they won 7, not Stanley Cups in a row. They won 7, they were first in the league, I believe it was 7 years in a row. That's impressive. But you see, in all that span, they only won 4 Stanley Cups. I think Gordie Howe only won 4 Stanley Cups, and that was with 6 teams. You know, Wayne Gretzky won 4 Stanley Cups, and but that's with way more teams. Way more teams. I hate to sound like a barking dog. But Gordie Howe, what was he like? What was Eric Nesterenko trying to be like? Well, people knew about Gordie Howe. By the time Eric Fontanato, I hope I'm pronouncing the name correctly, who was an enforcer, maybe the enforcer, a tough guy with the New York Rangers, decided to take Gordie Howe on. I think he thought he was going to beat him up or something. Apparently it was over pretty quickly. Lou Fontanato, what happened to him? Oh yeah, he was, he had a black eye, no, 2 black eyes, count them 2, a broken jaw. You can only break, I guess, 1 jaw, and yeah, he was sent to hospital with a concussion. People knew after that Gordie Howe could kill you legally if you got in a fight with him, so you steered clear of it. And he could probably kill you with his elbows and stuff like that. He loved throwing the elbows around. He was very careful about it. He'd wait until the 3rd period. If someone mucked around with him, and you know what I mean when I said muck around. If someone mucked around with him in the 1st and 2nd periods, he'd just take the guy's number, and then when the referees were swallowing their whistles in the 3rd period, he'd wreak vengeance. So I think they were saying to Eric Nesterenko, you're a big guy, you're really talented, so go out there, throw your weight around. He'd throw his weight around, and people would throw fisticuffs at him, and he'd end up paying for it. Then you can see Bobby Hull. Oh, here we go. This is Bobby Hull without steroids, apparently. That looks like almost like a steroid monster.
Okay.
There he is pitching hay. Now I think at this point in time, folks are using steroids. How much time?
Well, that's about it for you.
Okay, so we'll tune in and I'll talk about Jim, not James Brown, Jim Brown, the guy who's considered the greatest running back of all time, and what might have fueled his success. So, take care, tune in.